Next Sunday is the first Sunday in Advent, and it marks the new year of our liturgical life, which makes this Sunday the liturgical equivalent of New Year's Eve. And just as predictably as in New York City, we'll have the ball drop. You all know that. We count down, the ball drops, we say Happy New Year's. The last Sunday of our liturgical year is always Christ the King Sunday. Always. As predictably as the ball drop in New York City, we celebrate Christ the King. And it's sort of interesting because in doing so, we tell the end of the story before we start the beginning of the story. It becomes kind of a circle. We start at the end in a way. We start at the end on the cross, triumphant, right before we go into Advent, which is more of a time of turning inward, looking at what lies beneath, waiting, praying, wondering. Christ on the cross is our image here, promising paradise to all and promising paradise to a criminal. So the two primary moments of the incarnation sit side by side in our liturgical year. Christ on the cross and God reaching across time and eternity to become human. The crucifixion and the incarnation side by side in our liturgical cycle. In that cycle, the shadow of the cross casts across the moment the angel comes to Mary. The cross is laid against the Annunciation. Therefore, we have willing submission to God as the first and the last action of this story. The pain of crucifixion intimately linked to the agony of birth. The blood of the cross, the blood of birth. The song of sorrow, a continuing verse of the Magnificat. Mary's body creating and holding the incarnate God as she then holds her crucified Son, her body broken to bring God to earth, her heart torn for her Son to bind earth to heaven. Such a king is this. Such a salvation story this is. But what kind of king is Jesus? Fully human and fully divine, broken and hanging on a cross. What kind of king is that? His mother, royalty, equally broken and kneeling at that same cross. Friends gone, followers scattered, hopes dashed. Now, if you are here on Good Friday, and if you haven't been, I hope you will be this year, you can hear the Passion sung, and those dissonant tones will just pierce your heart. It is chilling and prayerful. We ourselves come and kneel at the foot of the cross while the choir sings Psalm 22, which is, of course, the psalm that Jesus prayed from the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me, and you are so far from my cry? And many of us have had that same psalm on our lips in varying times of our lives. This is hardly a triumphant king or a winning empire. A king of kings should be all-powerful and all-knowing, one who reigns in glory. But what kind of glory? What kind of power? What kind of empire is this? The glory of an earthly empire trades in profit and power and privilege and exclusion. God's empire is one of love and mercy and includes everyone. The king of that empire is magnificent and clothed in robes of gold and purple. But the cross casts a shadow on that as well. From that cross, we must ask, what about a king who is all benevolent? He who could have struck down his enemies from the cross did not do that. His last action is one of assurance and welcome into the kingdom, forgiveness. One who sees everything and pours out not judgment, but mercy. One who gazes on your life and your soul and my life and my soul and pours out benevolent love and welcomes us into this kingdom of love and mercy and acceptance and inclusion. All-powerful, not like an army of warriors or one who abuses and destroys, but powerful like the root that bores down into the earth and through a green shoot brings a flower, or drives a root of truth into your heart and your life and pushes up tender hope where you thought all was lost. We have a king and a kingdom that gives us the strength to stretch our love the length of our fear, confessing our sin and uniting what was divided. Love like a plumb line from the font to the altar to the cross for you and for me and for all of creation. You will be with me in paradise, says Jesus, to the criminal at his side. The person that you despise or the people you might detest or who you or I might place upon that cross is exactly the one that Jesus speaks to today. We do not get to choose who is forgiven. That is God's work. That is Jesus' mission. And Jesus has already done that work when he says, I tell you, this day you will be with me in paradise. The one that we would condemn is already forgiven by Jesus. And the part of myself that I'm convinced is unworthy, the part of yourself that maybe you're convinced is unworthy, is in fact that which Jesus elevates. Maybe that part of you and me, that part is the very wisest voice we have. And that is the one who speaks to Jesus and recognizes Christ as the living God and says, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. The part that we would want to hide or deny or set aside is exactly, I think, the one that can see the redeeming love of Christ first. And it is from that place that we say, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. The classic theologian, St. Augustine, teaches us that God has already turned to us before we even say those words, before we confess ourselves or confess Christ as the living God, God has already turned to us in prevenient grace, grace that precedes our confession. It comes before everything. It comes before our own recognition. And yet, it is our recognition and our confession that completes the action. Truly, you are the Christ. Remember me. We make that claim not from a place of power, but like the criminal from the cross itself, where the mighty have been cast down, the powerful made low, hungry are fed, and prisoners freed. The triumph of the cross is not the world's glory, but rather God's own vision. Thy kingdom come, my kingdom gone. Thy will be done, my will be undone. And we kneel in humble submission, not to an all-powerful, omniscient God who holds us and the world like a puppet, but rather an omnibenevolent God who holds us like children, like precious and beloved citizens of an empire built on love, inclusion, forgiveness, and healing. Thy kingdom come, our kingdom gone. Thy will be done, our will be undone. The word amen is a Hebrew word that means so be it. Amen. May it be so. Amen. May we be so. Amen.